He's strangely possessive of me and a child that isn't his, but I'm just the Alpha's maid. An original story by Maggie Reed. Prologue. They say that unmated Omegas are invisible. Mira had proven that truth for 3 long years, her hands marked by relentless labor, her back curved beneath the weight of blood-stained linens, her voice silenced under the brutal hierarchy of a castle where servants were worth less than nothing. Invisible, disposable, forgettable. Exactly as she'd planned. Because hidden in the dark attic, tucked between shadows and carefully woven lies, slept the reason she'd vanished from the world. A 2-year-old baby, the daughter of a man who had rejected them both when they were still connected by an umbilical cord. Rose, a piece of her soul that Mira would protect even if it cost her everything. And it already had. It had cost her name, her family, her dignity. It had cost her nights fleeing pregnant through hostile territories, giving birth alone in an abandoned cabin, years pretending to be someone she wasn't, all so that no one would look too closely, all so that the Alpha who ruled this castle, a brutal king and merciless wolf, would never discover that an insignificant servant hid a secret that could destroy them both. Mira believed this was all she deserved. Shadows, silence, survival carved from invisibility. She believed she would remain that way forever, a ghost drifting through corridors, cleaning wounds, disappearing before anyone truly saw her. But fate, she would discover that night when Alpha Magnus knocked on her door with amber eyes that pierced through lies and a voice speaking the impossible. I know about the child, had other plans, because the king everyone feared would do something no powerful Alpha should. He would see her, truly see her. Chapter 1. Mira scrubbed her fingers in the cold water for the 3rd time, watching the red dilute and disappear down the drain. But the smell lingered, or perhaps it was just a memory so strong it had become part of her. 3 years cleaning warriors' wounds, washing blood-soaked sheets, scrubbing stains from the infirmary floor. 3 years as a servant of the Shadow Peak Pack. 3 years hiding a secret that could destroy her. Mira! Lady Kendra's harsh voice cut through the kitchen. Alpha Magnus is returning from the border. Prepare his quarters. Now. Yes, ma'am. Mira dried her hands quickly, ignoring the tremor that always came when she heard that name. Alpha Magnus, king of the southern lands, the most feared wolf in 100 territories, and the man who couldn't discover the child hidden in the attic. Mira grabbed the clean linens and climbed the stairs to the royal quarters, her legs trembling despite her best efforts. 3 years here, and she still couldn't get used to the oppression of this place. Cold stone walls, dark corridors, a brutal hierarchy where an unmated Omega servant was worth less than nothing. But it was safe. Safer than the streets. Safer than being rogue with a 2-year-old baby. The Alpha's quarters were absurdly large. A sitting room with an enormous fireplace. A bedroom with a bed that could fit 5 people. A bathroom with a marble tub that Mira cleaned every week but would never use. She worked quickly, changing sheets, arranging pillows, making sure everything was perfect. Because Magnus had impossible standards. And servants who failed, well, Mira had seen what happened to them. Dismissed if they were lucky. Punished if they weren't. She was smoothing the last fold when the doors opened. He entered. Mira froze. Because even after 3 years working here, seeing Alpha Magnus in person still stole her breath. Tall. Absurdly tall. Over 6.5 feet of muscle and power. Broad shoulders that filled doorways. Short black hair that made his already sharp features even more intense. And those eyes. Amber burning like molten gold, sweeping the room with a predator's precision. And now looking directly at her. You're new. It wasn't a question. His voice was deep, rough, like distant thunder. No Alpha. Mira kept her eyes down, as she'd been taught. Never look directly at an Alpha. Especially not the king. I've worked here for 3 years, in the kitchen, and the infirmary, and cleaning. Then why have I never seen you? Because I always hide when you're near. Because an Alpha looking at an Omega servant never ends well. I'm careful, Alpha. I try not to be in the way. A heavy silence settled between them. She could feel his gaze traveling over her form, not sexual but assessing, as if he were cataloging every detail. Your name? Mira. Surname? She hesitated, because unmated Omegas didn't have surnames. They were just nobody. I don't have one, Alpha. I'm Rogue. Something shifted in the energy of the room, tension sharpening the air. Rogue. And yet my head of security allowed you to work here? In the castle? I was vetted, Alpha. No threats, no dangerous connections. I just needed work. Her voice came out smaller than she intended. Please, if I've done something wrong, look at me. An order. Impossible to disobey. Slowly, Mira raised her eyes, and immediately wished she hadn't. Because Magnus was closer now, less than 2 steps away, and he was looking at her with an intensity that made her skin tingle and her heart hammer. You're afraid of me. A statement, not a question. Yes, Alpha. Why? Because you're powerful and I'm nothing. Because I've seen what you do to enemies. Because I have a secret you can't know. Because you're the Alpha, and I'm just a servant. Something crossed his face, so quick she almost missed it. It looked like discontent? Sadness? Are you finished here? He gestured to the arranged room. Yes, Alpha, unless you need anything else. No, but he didn't step away. Instead, he tilted his head, studying her. You smell different, not like other Omegas. Panic iced through her veins. Because she knew why. The child. Nursing left traces in her scent. Other Omegas wouldn't notice. But a powerful Alpha? I use different soap, Alpha, so I don't irritate the sensitive skin of the people I care for in the infirmary. A lie, but reasonable. Magnus nodded slowly. Then, completely unexpected, he took a step back, giving her space. You may go. Mira didn't need to hear it twice. She bowed quickly and fled. Only when she was 3 corridors away, pressed against a wall with her heart pounding, did she allow herself to breathe. He'd noticed something different about her. And if he investigated, if he discovered Lily hidden in the attic. Mira? A small voice came from above. Mira looked at the narrow staircase leading to the attic, the servants' area where no one important ever went. She climbed quickly, opening the door to the tiny room she shared with 2 other maids. And there, sitting on the narrow bed with a rag doll in her arms, was her daughter, Lily, 2 years old, light brown hair in wild curls, large, curious gray eyes, the most precious thing Mira possessed, the reason she pretended to be someone she wasn't. Mama! Lily dropped the doll, running with unsteady little steps. Mira caught her holding tight. Hi, sweetheart. Were you good for Aunt Bess? Yes. Bess, an old maid who watched Lily while Mira worked, waved from the corner chair. Quiet as always. This child is an angel. Thank you for watching her. Mira said sincerely. No problem. But Mira, I heard the Alpha returned. He didn't see you, did he? He did. The tone came out more worried than she wanted. He spoke to me. Asked questions. Alarm crossed Bess's face. What kind of questions? My name. Why he'd never seen me before. And... She hesitated, holding Lily tighter. He said I smelled different. Oh, heavens. Bess stood, moving surprisingly fast for someone in her 70s. Mira, if he finds out about the little one... He won't. I'll be more careful. Stay invisible again. But what if he looks for you? The question hung in the air, because it was possible. Alphas sometimes fixated on Omegas, and when they did, then I'll leave, Mira said quietly. I'll take Lily and we'll go, before it's too late. Where? You don't have a pack, no family, no money except what you earn here. It doesn't matter. I'll find something. She had to. Because the alternative, Magnus discovering Lily, asking questions about the father, realizing the truth, was unacceptable. Lily yawned, resting her little head on Mira's shoulder. Sleepy, Mama. I know, love. Let's go to bed soon. But that night, lying in the narrow bed with Lily curled against her, Mira couldn't sleep, because she kept seeing those amber eyes, the intensity in them, the curiosity. Magnus had noticed her, and something told her it wouldn't be so easy to disappear again. She was nearly asleep when a knock on the door jolted her fully awake. Mira sat up, heart racing. Lily was still sleeping. Bess had already gone to her own room. Who would knock at this hour? Slowly, she got up, checking that Lily was covered and hidden. Then she opened the door just a crack, and froze. Magnus, Alpha Magnus, in the servants' corridors, alone. Alpha? The word came out shaky. Is everything all right? Do you need something? I need to speak with you. His voice was low, urgent. Now. Absolute panic. I can come to your quarters. No, here. Amber eyes pierced hers. It's about the child you're hiding. The world stopped. He knew. Impossible, but he knew. And when Mira tried to close the door, Magnus placed his hand on the frame, not forcing, just preventing. I'm not going to hurt her, he said. And there was something in his voice. Urgency. Sincerity. Or you. But I need to understand. Now. Please. And Mira, with no choices left, opened the door, letting the Alpha who ruled her entire world enter the secret that could destroy her. Chapter 2. Magnus entered the tiny room, and the space shrank instantly. He was too large for this place, his shoulders nearly touching the walls, his head almost grazing the low ceiling. He looked around, cataloging everything in seconds. A narrow bed, a small trunk, almost no belongings, and on the bed, covered by a thin blanket, a sleeping child. Mira moved instinctively, placing herself between Magnus and Lily. A defensive posture, even knowing she couldn't stop him if he wanted to take the child. How did you know? The words came out through gritted teeth. Your scent. It had traces of breast milk mixed in. And fear, the specific fear of a mother hiding her pup. Magnus didn't take his eyes off the bed. How long have you been here? With her? 3 years. Since Lily was 2 months old. And no one knew? Bess knew. She helped. Helped me hide. Helped care for her while I worked. Magnus finally looked at Mira. His expression was impossible to read. Why hide? Servants can have children. Not rogue omegas without mating. Mira forced her voice steady. And especially not when when there is no father. I would have been expelled. Or worse. The father abandoned you both. It wasn't a question, but Mira nodded anyway. Something dark crossed Magnus's face. Anger, she realized. Pure fury directed at someone who wasn't there. And you came here. Alone. With a 2-month-old baby? Got work pretending you had no pup, and hid for 3 years. Yes. That's... He paused, searching for words. Brave. And desperate. It was survival, Mira corrected. The only option besides the streets. Magnus was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something completely unexpected. He knelt down, descending until he was at her level, not dominating, just present. Mira, look at me. Reluctantly, she obeyed. I'm not going to expel you. I'm not going to hurt your daughter. But I need to understand something. He hesitated, as if the next words were difficult. Why do you have the scent of... connection? Connection? A bond. Weak, but it's there. As if... He frowned, clearly confused. As if the child carries the trace of a powerful alpha. But you said the father abandoned you, so it doesn't make sense. Mira trembled. Because there was a reason for that. A terrible reason she'd never told anyone. Lily's father was an alpha, she admitted quietly. But not just any alpha. He was the son of Alpha Theron of the Eastern Lands. Shock crossed Magnus's face. Theron's son? The heir? Yes, Damien. Just speaking the name hurt. I met him when I was passing through the Eastern Lands. I was a temporary messenger. He was kind. Said he loved me. Promised mating. Tears burned, but she forced them back. But when I found out I was pregnant, everything changed. He said he needed an omega of pure bloodline. That I was... entertainment. Nothing more. And he expelled you. Worse, he tried to make me disappear. Literally. Mira touched her arm unconsciously, where a thin scar still marked. He sent someone to silence me. I escaped, barely, and I ran. First to neutral territories, then here. Absolute fury emanated from Magnus, power pulsing in waves so intense that Mira felt her knees weaken. He tried to kill you, and the child too. Yes, because a baby would be inconvenient, proof of a mistake. She looked at Lily, still sleeping peacefully. But I don't regret it. She's everything, worth every scar, every day hiding, every second of fear. Magnus followed her gaze, and when he spoke again, his voice was softer. May I look? Just look. I won't wake her. Mira should have said no, but something in the way he asked, respectful, genuine, made her nod. Magnus moved slowly, approaching the bed. He leaned in, watching Lily sleep, and the expression that crossed his face was devastating. Pain, loss, longing. She's beautiful, he whispered. She looks like you, but I see the traits of strong alpha lineage. She'll be powerful when she grows up. If she grows up safe, Mira corrected. If Damien never finds out where we are. Magnus turned. Does he know you're alive? I don't know. I hope not. I hope he thinks I'm dead and forgets about me. But the fear was always there. But if he finds out, he'd come. Not for Lily, but to finish what he started. I won't let that happen. The words were spoken with such absolute certainty that Mira blinked. Mira, while you're under my roof, you have my protection. You and Lily. Understand? But why? I'm just a servant. Nobody important. Magnus studied her, then said something that changed everything. My sister had a pup, 4 years ago. The father abandoned her when he found out. She came to me, asking for help. Pain crossed his face. I promised to protect her, promised everything would be all right, but there were complications during birth. She died, and the baby didn't survive either. Shock stole Mira's breath. Alpha Magnus, Since then I've had a fixation on protecting Omegas in similar situations. Because I failed her. But I won't fail again. He approached, but maintained a respectful distance. So, I'm offering true protection, not just from Damien, but from everything. In exchange for what? Because nothing was free. Mira had learned that. Honesty, loyalty, and perhaps, he hesitated, company. The castle is large and empty, and you seem like someone who understands loneliness. It wasn't a sexual proposition. Mira realized that through his tone, his posture, it was an offering of something more. Friendship? Connection? And Lily? She needed to know. Can she stay? With me? Not hidden? Not just stay. She'll have her own room, education, protection from the entire pack. Magnus looked at the sleeping child. And if anyone, including Damien, tries to hurt her, they'll answer to me. It sounded too good to be true. But through the sincerity in his amber eyes, Mira saw truth. Why are you doing this? Because when I saw you, small, scared, but still fiercely protecting your pup, I saw my sister. I saw courage that should have been rewarded, not punished. His voice became hoarse, and I thought, not anymore. Not this one. This one I save. Tears finally fell, because no one had ever offered help without demanding something terrible in return. I accept, Mira whispered. Your protection, your offering, everything. Relief crossed his face. Good. Then tomorrow, everything changes. You won't be just a common servant anymore. You'll be, he thought, personal assistant. A role that justifies being close, having access to better resources. People will question it. Let them question. I'm Alpha. My decisions don't need explanation. But then he softened. But if they ask you, tell the truth. You're under my protection, and that's all they need to know. Lily stirred, making a small sound. They both froze. But she just turned over, returning to deep sleep. I should go, Magnus said quietly. Let her rest. But tomorrow at dawn, come to my quarters. Bring Lily. We'll discuss details. All right. He moved to the door, then stopped. looked back. Mira? Thank you. For trusting me. I know it wasn't easy. Thank you for not being like other alphas. Something sad crossed his face. I try to be better. I don't always succeed, but I try. After he left, Mira sank onto the bed next to Lily. Her heart still pounding, her mind spinning. Alpha Magnus knew, and instead of expelling her, he'd offered protection. Was it a dream? A mistake? Or perhaps, just perhaps, it was the second chance she never thought she deserved. She pulled Lily closer, breathing in the scent of baby mixed with gentle soap. Everything's going to change, little one, she whispered. And for the first time, I think it's for the better. Chapter 3. Morning came too quickly. Mira was nervous as she dressed Lily in the cleanest outfit they had, though it was already too small but would have to do. Bess watched with a mixture of worry and hope. Are you sure about this? The old maid asked for the third time. A powerful alpha offering protection like this, there's always a price. I know, but what's the alternative? Mira finished tying Lily's shoes. Keep hiding? Live in constant fear? At least this way. Maybe we have a chance. Lily was exceptionally quiet, as if sensing the tension in the air. She held Mira's hand tightly when they left the room. The corridors leading to the royal quarters seemed longer than yesterday. Each step echoed against the stone walls. Other servants stopped to stare, watching the insignificant Omega boldly walking toward the Alpha's territory. With a child. The whispers were already beginning. A guard stood at the door to Magnus's quarters. Tall, scarred, with a warrior's posture. He frowned when he saw Mira. Servants aren't allowed. She's here at my request. Magnus's voice came from inside. Let her in, Rolf. Surprise crossed the guard's face, but he obeyed. He opened the door, gesturing for them to enter. Mira walked in, holding Lily on her hip. Magnus stood near the window, morning light illuminating him from behind. When he turned, something warmed in his eyes as he saw the child. Mira, and this must be Lily. He approached, but stopped at a respectful distance. He knelt again, a gesture that was becoming his pattern, she realized, putting himself at their level, not dominating. Hi, little one, he said gently. My name is Magnus. Lily studied him with wide eyes. Then she hid her face in Mira's shoulder. She's shy, Mira explained quickly. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. It's smart to be cautious with strangers. Magnus stood. But I hope that with time, she'll trust me. Because I'm going to be around, protecting you both. He gestured to the nearby sofa. Please sit. We have much to discuss. Mira sat down, Lily still clinging to her. Magnus took a chair, sitting across from them, close but not invading their space. First, your living situation. You can't stay in that attic anymore. It's inadequate. He paused, and a flicker of something protective crossed his face. There's a vacant suite in the west wing, near my quarters. 2 bedrooms, private bathroom, a small sitting room. It'll be yours. Shock stole Mira's words. Alpha, that's too much. It's necessary. If I'm going to say you're under my personal protection, you need to be where I can ensure your safety. But his voice softened. And Lily needs her own space. A room where she can play, grow, not be hidden. Tears burned in Mira's eyes, because he was right, and because he was offering something she'd never thought possible. Thank you, she whispered. Second, your role here. No longer a common servant. Officially, you'll be my personal assistant. That means managing schedules, assisting with administrative matters, sometimes accompanying me to meetings. He studied her carefully. Can you read and write? Yes. My mother taught me before she died. Good. Then training will be easier. Hannah, my head of security, will help. She's strict, but fair. Lily shifted, finally relaxing a bit. She looked around with curiosity blooming in her gray eyes. Magnus noticed. Do you like toys? He asked her. Lily looked at Mira as if asking permission. Mira nodded. Yes, the small voice said. The first word she'd spoken in front of him. Something melted in Magnus's face. He stood, walking to a box in the corner that Mira hadn't noticed before. He returned with a small stuffed wolf. I thought maybe you'd like to meet a friend. Hesitantly, Lily reached out. She took the toy, pressing it against her chest. Thank you, Mira said for her. You're welcome. Magnus sat back down. Third, and most important, security. Mira, you said Damien tried to silence you. Does that mean there's a price on your head? Mira's stomach churned. I don't know. Maybe. If someone from the Eastern Lands recognizes me, then we'll make sure they don't recognize you. Magnus leaned forward, his expression intensifying. There's an ancient ritual called the Moon's Veil. It changes your appearance slightly. Hair color, eyes, facial features. Not completely different, but enough that casual recognition would be difficult. Magic? Mira had never experienced magic before. Rogue Omegas didn't have access to such things. Yes, performed by the head healer. It's safe, reversible, and lasts for years if maintained. He paused, watching her reaction carefully. But it's your choice. If you'd prefer not to. No, I'll do it. Because the idea of Damien or his thugs recognizing her, finding Lily, it was unacceptable. When? Today, if you want. The sooner, the safer. Magnus looked at Lily, and something protective flickered in his amber eyes. And for her, would you consider another name? Temporary. Just in public. Mira held her daughter tighter. Changing her name felt wrong, like erasing who she was. But Magnus continued, his voice gentle but logical. I'm not saying to forget who she is, but on official documents, when introducing her, a different name would protect her. No one would search for Lily if records say something else. It made sense. Painful, but sensible. How about Rose? Mira suggested, her voice thick with emotion, because roses had been her mother's favorite flowers. Her name would be Rose, but between us, still Lily. Perfect. Magnus nodded with approval. Rose officially, Lily in private. Lily Rose squeezed the stuffed wolf, oblivious to the decisions being made for her, innocent and safe in her mother's arms. There's one more thing. Magnus was quiet for a moment, then his expression became grave. People will speculate about why I'm doing this. Why a random Omega and her daughter receive personal protection. And what do we say? The truth. A version of it. Amber eyes held hers. You're an Omega who fled an abusive situation. You came here seeking refuge. And I, as an Alpha implementing new Omega protection laws, decided to be an example. To show that I protect the vulnerable. It wasn't entirely false. And it gave a reason others would understand. Will people accept it? Some will. Others will question. Let them question. Determination hardened his voice. I'm Alpha. And if I decide to protect you, no one has the right to interfere. There was something more there. Something he wasn't saying. Mira could sense it through the intensity with which he looked at her and Lily. But before she could ask, a knock interrupted. Guard Rolf entered. Alpha, forgive me, but Hannah is here. She says there's a situation. Immediate tension rippled through the room. What kind? A visitor. From the Eastern Lands. The world stopped. Eastern Lands. Damien's territory. Mira felt her blood turn to ice. Through her expression, Magnus understood immediately. Name of the visitor? He asked, his voice like ice. Ambassador Silas. Says he's here for diplomatic business. Magnus stood, his entire demeanor shifting into alpha mode. Mira, take Lily Rose to the room I mentioned. West wing, third door on the right. Lock yourselves inside. Don't come out until I return. Magnus, now. It wasn't a request. It was an Alpha's command. But then his expression softened slightly. Please, until we know what they want, I need you both safe. Do you trust me? Mira nodded, because strangely, she did trust him. She picked up Lily, Rose, holding her firmly, and ran. Through the corridors, turning where he'd said, third door. She opened it, entered, locked it behind them. The room was beautiful. A large bed, dark wood furniture, a window overlooking gardens, and through a connected door, a smaller room already prepared as a nursery. But Mira barely noticed. She was pressed against the door, her heart pounding like a war drum. An ambassador from the Eastern lands. Here. Now. Coincidence? Or had Damien discovered where she was? Mama? Rose's voice was small, frightened. What's wrong? Nothing, love. A lie. We just need to be quiet for a while, okay? Rose nodded, squeezing the stuffed wolf. And Mira waited, praying that the man who'd promised protection could actually deliver. Chapter 4. An hour passed like an eternity. Mira sat on the floor near the door, Rose playing silently beside her with the stuffed wolf. Every sound in the corridors made her jump. Every footstep could be someone coming to tear them away. Finally, a firm knock. Mira, it's me. Magnus's voice, but she needed to be sure. How do I know? A pause. Then softer. Because I promised to protect you and Lily. And I keep my promises. The use of Rose's true name, something only they knew, was proof enough. Mira unlocked the door. Magnus entered quickly, closing it behind him. He looked tense. His jaw was locked, muscles rigid beneath his formal shirt. What happened? Mira asked, fear tightening her throat. Magnus glanced at Rose first. Little one, can you play over there by the window? I need to talk to your mama. Rose looked at Mira, who nodded. The girl obeyed, taking her toy with her. Only when she was far enough away did Magnus speak, his voice low and controlled. Ambassador Silas came with a proposal. An alliance between the southern lands and the eastern lands. Resource sharing, trade, a peace treaty. That's good, isn't it? It would be, if it didn't come with a condition. Fury crossed his face like a storm cloud. They want to seal the alliance with a mating, between me and Damien's sister. Shock stole the air from Mira's lungs. What? Elena, Alpha Theron's daughter, an Omega of pure bloodline. Magnus spat the words like poison. Silas said it would be a perfect union, joining two powerful kingdoms. Mira didn't understand why sharp pains sliced through her chest. Magnus owed her nothing. They barely knew each other. But the idea of him mated to the sister of the man who'd tried to kill her, and you accepted? The question escaped before she could stop it. No. The answer was immediate, fierce. I said I'd consider it, but that I don't make decisions like this hastily. Relief flooded through her, but also confusion. Why not just refuse outright? Magnus approached, stopping close to her. Because refusing completely would generate suspicion. They'd ask questions, investigate why. His amber eyes pierced hers. And I can't risk them tracing that back to you. So you're pretending to consider. To protect me. To protect both of you. He looked at Rose, and his expression softened. But Mira, you need to understand, this complicates everything. If Silas or anyone from the Eastern lands stays here long enough, they might recognize you, even with the moon's veil. Then I'll do the ritual, today, now. It's already arranged. The head healer is waiting. Magnus hesitated, then surprisingly he took her hand. A gentle touch, just fingers intertwined. I know it's scary, changing your appearance, even temporarily. But I'll be there, during the entire ritual, if you want. The warmth of his hand was comforting, not domineering or sexual, just present. I want that. You there. The words came out low. Something warmed in his eyes. Then let's go. The ritual took place in the healer's tower, a circular room with herbs hanging from the ceiling, crystals scattered on shelves, the heavy scent of incense thick in the air. The head healer, Lady Alara, was an elderly woman with braided silver hair and eyes that seemed to see through people. Alpha Magnus explained the situation, she said, gesturing for Mira to sit in a chair at the center of the room. The moon's veil is ancient magic, safe, but irreversible for 6 months after application. Are you certain? Mira looked at Rose, who was with Magnus. Surprisingly, the child had let him hold her while Mira underwent the ritual, a sign of growing trust. I'm certain, Alara began, murmuring an incantation in an ancient language, mixing herbs in a silver bowl, then applying the mixture to Mira's temples, eyelids, lips. It burned. Not painful, but intense, like tingling racing across all the skin of her face. "Look in the mirror," Ilara instructed when she finished. Mira stood on trembling legs. She walked to the large mirror on the wall and froze. It was still her, but different. Her brown hair now had a more golden tone. Her gray eyes had a slightly green shimmer. Her nose was a bit more upturned. Her lips fuller, beautiful, but not the same Mira that Damien had known. Will this work?" She touched her face, feeling the same skin but seeing the change. "It will work," Magnus said behind her. She turned, finding him looking at her with a strange expression. Admiration? "No one who knew you before will recognize you easily, and on documents will register these characteristics. Mira Ashwood." Ashwood? A temporary surname, based on a neutral region. It gives you an origin story that no one can easily verify. He approached, still holding Rose in one arm. "And as for you, little one," Ilara knelt near the child. "For children, the veil is gentler, just small adjustments. Hair color, perhaps." Rose looked at Mira with wide, scared eyes. "It'll be okay, love," Mira assured her, her voice gentle and soothing. "It'll be quick. And I'll be right here, along with Magnus." The use of his name without title felt natural, and Magnus didn't correct her. The ritual for Rose was quick. When it finished, her light brown curls had a darker tone, almost honey-colored. Beautiful, but different. "Perfect," Ilara said with satisfaction. "Now you're magically protected. For 6 months, no one searching for Mira and Lily will recognize you." As they walked back through the corridors, Magnus carrying Rose, who had fallen asleep on his shoulder, exhausted from the ritual, Mira felt a change, not just in appearance, but in how people looked at them. Servants bowed respectfully. Warriors nodded in acknowledgement. No one saw insignificant servant anymore. They saw the alphas protected. "This will take time to get used to," she murmured. "It will." Magnus adjusted Rose in his arms, the gesture so natural it seemed he'd done it 1,000 times. "But Mira, there's something else." They stopped at the door to her room. Her and Rose's room now. Not a cramped attic, but a royal suite. "What?" "Tomorrow night there's a banquet. Diplomatic. Silas and his delegation will be present." His voice became tense. "And they expect me to show consideration for the mating proposal. Elena will arrive tomorrow." Irrational jealousy burned in Mira's chest, but she pushed it aside. "And you need me to stay hidden?" "No, the opposite." Magnus looked at her intently. "I need you to appear. As my personal assistant. By my side." "Why?" "Because if I'm considering a political mating, it won't seem strange to have a close assistant. Other alphas have them, it's normal." But then his voice softened. "And selfishly, I want you there. Someone I know is on my side. Not judging, just present." How could she refuse? "All right, I'll be there." Relief crossed his face. Gently, he passed Rose into Mira's arms, the child still sleeping deeply. "Rest today. Tomorrow will be difficult." After he left, Mira placed Rose in the bed in the connected small room. She covered her with a soft blanket, so different from the thin ones they'd had before, and she looked out the window at the gardens below. Tomorrow she would face the sister of the man who'd tried to kill her. Tomorrow she would watch Magnus considering mating with someone else. But at least now, they had protection, magic, safety. Was it enough? It would have to be. Chapter 5. The dress Hannah brought that morning was absurdly beautiful. Deep blue like a midnight sky, the fabric flowing like water, silver embroidery on the sleeves. Appropriate for an alpha's personal assistant, but not so luxurious that it would draw undue attention. "Magnus sent this," Hannah explained as she helped Mira with the corset in the back. The beta was a tall woman with defined muscles and a scar crossing her eyebrow. Intimidating, but she was being surprisingly gentle. "He said you need to look the part." "It's too much," Mira murmured, looking at herself in the mirror. The woman looking back with golden hair and soft waves, greenish-gray eyes, elegant dress, seemed like a stranger. "I don't recognize myself." "Good. That's the point. Hannah finished, then turned Mira by the shoulders to face her. Listen. I know Magnus explained the situation, your story, what you're running from. Mira tensed. How much did Hannah know? I don't know the details. I don't need to, but I know my alpha. Determination hardened Hannah's voice. He doesn't protect lightly. If he said you're under his protection, it means he'd die before letting anyone hurt you. Understand? We barely know each other. Why would he do that? Because it's who he is. Hannah sighed. And for a moment, something sad crossed her face. Magnus has lost a lot of people. Parents in an attack when he was young. His sister in childbirth 4 years ago. He carries guilt, believing he should have saved everyone. So when he sees someone he can save, she shrugged. It becomes a personal mission. That explained so much. The intensity, the fierce commitment. But Hannah, what if he needs to accept the mating? For politics? For the alliance? Something dark crossed the beta's face. Then we'll deal with it. But between you and me, Magnus hates being pressured. And the more they push this Elena on him, the more he'll resist. A knock on the door interrupted them. Bess entered, holding Rose's hand. Someone wanted to see Mama in her pretty dress, the old maid said with a smile. Rose ran forward but stopped when she saw Mira. Confusion crossed her little face. Mama? Mira's heart broke a little. It's me, love. Just wearing different clothes. Rose approached slowly, touching the dress's skirt with small fingers. Pretty. Thank you. Mira picked her up, holding tight. I need to go to an event tonight. But Aunt Bess will stay with you, okay? And Magnus? Rose asked. In the last 2 days, she'd grown strangely attached to the alpha. Magnus will be at the event too, but he'll come back after. Maybe he'll visit you tomorrow. Promise? Mira looked at Hannah, who nodded. I promise. The great hall was transformed. Tables covered with white cloths, crystal chandeliers reflecting candlelight, flowers in elaborate arrangements, musicians playing softly in the corner, and at the center, sitting at the main table, was Magnus. But he wasn't alone. Beside him, wearing a red dress that looked like it cost more than everything Mira owned, sat a stunning woman. Hair black as ebony in perfect curls, bright blue eyes, pale, flawless skin, a smile that showed perfect white teeth. Elena, Damien's sister. Mira stopped at the entrance, her stomach churning. Because even from a distance she could see, Elena was everything she wasn't. Elegant, confident, of pure bloodline, perfect for a king. Mira. Magnus's voice cut through the noise. He stood, and everyone looked. Come, sit here. He pointed to the chair on his other side, opposite Elena. On trembling legs, Mira crossed the hall. She felt every stare, every whisper. She sat down, maintaining the upright posture Hannah had taught her. Magnus leaned in, his voice low, just for her. You look beautiful. Thank you, she murmured. Then, because she needed to ask, Are you all right? I will be. But the tension was clear in his shoulders. As long as you're here. From the other side, Elena watched with eyes that missed nothing. Magnus, darling, she said, her voice sweet as honey. Won't you introduce me to your assistant? There was subtle venom in the last word. Of course. Elena, this is Mira Ashwood, my personal assistant. Magnus turned to Mira. Mira, Elena of the Eastern Lands. Pleasure, Mira forced politeness. Likewise. Elena tilted her head, studying Mira for a moment too long. Ashwood. Interesting. What region exactly? A trap. Mira could sense it. Northern part of the Ash Mountains. Small village. I doubt you know it. I know many villages. I travel quite extensively. A sharp smile. Perhaps I've visited yours? Perhaps, but it's been years since I left. Elena turned her attention back to Magnus, her hand landing on his arm possessively. Magnus, we should discuss the alliance details. My brother Damien is so eager to meet you. He leads many of our diplomatic initiatives now. Mira felt her blood turn to ice at that name. Magnus must have felt it too, because he tensed. But he kept his voice neutral. Damien, I've heard of him. A talented heir, they say. Oh yes, strong, intelligent, and devoted to family. Elena smiled. Though he's had setbacks. There was a situation with a rogue Omega a few years ago. He tried to claim her, but she fled. Caused quite a scandal. A lie. An absolute lie. Mira clenched her fists under the table, nails digging into her palms. She couldn't react. Couldn't show anything. But Magnus, surprisingly, said, "Interesting how stories change depending on who tells them. I heard a different version. That he used her and discarded her." Shock crossed Elena's face. Who would say such? Sources vary. Magnus picked up his wineglass, drinking. But I prefer to judge character by actions, not rumors. When I meet Damien, I'll form my own opinion. Thick tension settled over the table. The dinner proceeded in uncomfortable silence. Elena tried to converse, seduce, impress. Magnus responded politely but coldly, and Mira watched everything, her heart pounding. Until, in the middle of dessert, a man entered the hall hurriedly. Tall, broad shoulders, blonde hair, blue eyes that Mira would recognize anywhere. Damien. Absolute panic flooded through her, even with the moon's veil, even with her changed appearance. Seeing him there, meters away, made primitive terror explode in her chest. She started to stand, instinct screaming to flee. But a firm hand covered hers under the table. Magnus, holding her, preventing her. "Stay," he murmured so low only she heard. "Don't run. Don't look at him. Just breathe." Damien approached the table, bowing slightly. "Forgive the intrusion." The journey was faster than expected. His eyes landed on Magnus. "King Magnus, we finally meet." "Damien, welcome." Magnus stood, releasing Mira's hand. They shook hands, a formal gesture. Then Damien's eyes swept the table. They passed over Mira, stopped, returned, studied. The world stopped. He knows, Mira thought, panic screaming through her mind. He recognizes me. But then Damien smiled. "And who is this beauty?" "My assistant, Mira Ashwood." Magnus returned to his chair, subtly blocking Damien's view. Subtle protection. Enchanted. Damien extended his hand. Mira had to take it, had to shake it, had to smile. When his fingers touched hers, nausea churned in her stomach. "Likewise," she forced out. Damien held on too long, looking, searching. But finally, he released her hand. "Ashwood, I've never visited there. You must tell me about it later. Perhaps, but never." Damien sat down, his attention shifting to politics, to Magnus, to the alliance. And Mira spent the rest of the evening frozen, barely eating, barely breathing. Until finally, the event ended. Magnus escorted her out personally, through the corridors, to her room. Only when the door closed behind them, away from listening ears, did Mira collapse. Literally. Her legs gave out. Magnus caught her before she fell. He held her firmly, letting her tremble against him. "He almost recognized me," she sobbed. "Almost knew." But he didn't. The veil worked. Magnus guided her to the sofa, sitting beside her, not letting go. "Mira, breathe. You're safe." "For how long?" "He's here, in the castle. And he won't get near you again. I promise." Determination like steel ran through his voice. "Hannah already has orders. You're never alone with him. Never in the same corridor. And Rose stays locked in this suite when visitors are nearby." "But Magnus, what if he stays? What if the alliance happens and—" "It won't." The absolute firmness stopped her words. "I won't mate with Elena. I won't make an alliance that brings him into my life permanently. It's not worth the risk to you. But your pack, we'll find another way to security, another treaty." He took her face between his hands, a gentle touch, forcing her to look at him. "Mira, listen. You and Rose are the priority. Not politics. Not alliance. You. Understand?" Tears fell. Because he was choosing them over everything. "Why?" Her voice broke. "Why do we matter so much?" Magnus wiped her tears with his thumbs. Because when I look at you, I see courage. When I see Rose, I see innocence that deserves protection. And when I imagine a world where you both aren't safe—" He paused, something crossing his face. "I can't accept it." The proximity was intense, faces inches apart, breaths mixing. For a moment, Mira thought he would kiss her, but he didn't. Instead, he pressed his forehead against hers. "Rest. Tomorrow, I'll make Silas and his delegation leave. I'll invent an excuse. Anything. But they won't stay." After he left, Mira checked on Rose, sleeping deeply, oblivious to the danger that had been so close. And for the first time, she realized something terrible. She was falling in love with the alpha who'd promised to protect them. Completely. Irrevocably. But he deserved better than a broken Omega with a dangerous past, didn't he? Chapter 6. 3 days later, Damien and his delegation departed. Magnus had invented an excuse: the need for internal council review, time to properly consider the mating proposal. Silas had accepted, though clearly displeased. Elena had tried to stay, but Magnus had been firm. "When I make my decision, I'll send a formal message." Mira had watched from the window as the carriages left. She'd seen Damien look back at the castle, as if searching for something. Searching for her? Impossible. He didn't know. But the paranoia persisted. "They're gone," Magnus said behind her. She turned, finding him at the door of the suite. "All of them. Thank you for making them leave." "Don't thank me yet." He entered, closing the door. "Because now comes the political consequence. The Eastern lands will expect an answer. And when I refuse, there will be retaliation. Maybe. Or maybe just diplomatic tension." Magnus approached, and something heavy settled in the air between them. "But Mira, there's another issue." "What?" "The people here, the pack, they're speculating." He stopped close, too close, but not invading. Just present. "About why I refused, Elena. Why I chose you as my assistant. Why I protect you and Rose so fiercely." Her stomach tightened. "What are they speculating?" "That there's more. Between us." Amber eyes held hers. "That maybe you're more than an assistant. And is that a problem?" "Not for me." But hesitation was there. "But for you? If rumors grow, if they say you're my unofficial mate, my favorite, it will bring attention. Maybe dangerous attention." Mira processed that. "Are you saying I should keep my distance?" "I'm saying I'll let you choose." Magnus took a deep breath. "I can keep everything formal. Assistant and alpha. Protector and protected. Or we can stop pretending there isn't a connection here." His voice became rough. "Mira, these last few days, getting to know you, seeing how you love Rose, how you're strong despite everything you've faced, it's changed something in me. Made me realize that maybe I don't need to be alone. That maybe—" He paused, vulnerable in a way a king shouldn't be. "Maybe I deserve a real connection, with someone who sees me, not just the crown." Her heart pounded. "Magnus, you don't need to answer now. Just think about it. If maybe you could see this, us, as something more." He started to turn away, but Mira caught his hand, stopping him. "What if I've already thought about it? What if I already know?" Hope lit in his eyes. "And? I'm afraid," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Afraid I won't be enough. That my past will ruin you. That Damien will find out and use this against—" "Let me worry about Damien. About politics. About everything external." Magnus turned completely, taking both her hands. "You just answer one question. When you're with me, do you feel something? Anything?" Honesty forced its way out. "Yes, I feel safety, warmth, like for the first time I can breathe. Like maybe, just maybe, we deserve a real home. You deserve it. Both of you." He moved closer. "And I want to be that home. If you'll let me." Mira couldn't breathe, because he was offering everything she'd always wanted. Family. Belonging. Love. And Rose? She needed to know. "If we do this, if we make it real, she's part of it too. I can't choose between you and her." "I wouldn't ask you to choose." Magnus smiled, rare, genuine. Rose is special. When I see her, I feel something I didn't expect. Protective instinct, yes, but also fatherhood. Like part of me recognizes that she should be mine, to protect, to raise, to love. Tears burned in her eyes. Then yes, Mira whispered. Yes to everything. To us. To trying. Even with fear, even with risk. I want to try. The joy that lit his face was devastating. And then, slowly and carefully, giving her space to pull back, Magnus leaned in and kissed her. Soft. Gentle. Nothing demanding, just promising. When they pulled apart, Mira was trembling. "What does this mean exactly?" she asked. "Officially, still assistant and alpha, for safety." But his smile softened. "Unofficially, we're courting, getting to know each other. And if everything goes well," he touched her face, "maybe, with time, true mating." It felt like a dream, but an urgent knock on the door shattered the moment. Hannah burst in without waiting. Her face was pale. "Magnus, we have a problem." Immediate tension. "What?" "A messenger arrived. From the eastern lands. He brings an accusation." She looked at Mira, something like apology in her eyes. "Damien is accusing someone here of kidnapping, of hiding an Omega who fled with his pup 3 years ago." The world stopped. "He doesn't have names yet," Hannah continued quickly, "but he's demanding a full investigation. He wants permission to send trackers, to conduct searches." No, Magnus was already in alpha mode. Absolute authority. "My territory, my rules. I won't allow an invasion. But if you refuse, it will look like you're hiding something. It'll give credibility to the accusation." Hannah looked between them. "Magnus, he knows. Somehow he knows she's here." Panic. Absolute terror. "How?" Mira whispered. "The veil worked. He looked at me and didn't recognize me. Maybe not visually, but there are other ways." Hannah bit her lip. "Magic trackers can sense blood bonds. If he brings one and searches for a child with his lineage, they would find Rose." "No." Mira was shaking. "No. I won't let them take her. I'd rather die. No one is going to die. No one is taking anything." Magnus pulled her into a firm embrace. Then he looked at Hannah. "How much time do we have?" "Hours, maybe until tomorrow. But Magnus..." Hannah hesitated. "He brought a blood tracker. A witch specialized in finding bloodlines. If she performs a ritual close enough, she would find the connection between Rose and Damien. Then we don't let her get close." Magnus turned to Mira. "Rose stays here, locked. Magical protection on the doors. No one enters except us." "And me?" Mira asked. "He'll recognize me eventually. Not if you stay hidden." But hesitation was there, as if he knew it was only a temporary solution. "I can't hide forever, and running only delays it." Determination hardened Mira's voice. "Magnus, what if we face him, together?" "No, too dangerous. But I'm your assistant now, your..." She hesitated over the word. "Your unofficial mate. I can't stay in the shadows while a threat looms." She took his hand. "And maybe it's time for Damien to know I survived. That Rose is mine. And that now we have protection he can never break." Through the growing bond between them, she felt his conflict. Wanting to protect her versus knowing she was right. "If we do this," Magnus said slowly, "we do it my way. With my rules. Understand?" "Yes." He looked at Hannah. "Arrange a meeting. Tomorrow at noon. Neutral Hall. Damien and only 5 of his party. Me, Mira, you, and 2 warriors. Equal terms." "And Rose?" Hannah asked. "Stays hidden, guarded, until we have a measure of his intentions." Magnus took a deep breath. "But Mira is right. Time to confront this. End it once and for all." After Hannah left, Magnus pulled Mira into an embrace. "I know you're strong. I know you've survived terrible things." His voice was rough against her hair. "But seeing him again, facing the memories, it's going to be hard. I can feel your fear. And you can feel my determination too," Mira responded. "I'm not the broken Omega he discarded anymore. I'm an assistant, your mate, Rose's mother, and I'll fight for this. Then we fight together. He kissed the top of her head. Against Damien. Against anyone. Together. And through the bond growing between them, Mira felt the promise. No matter what came, they had each other. It was enough. It had to be. Chapter 7. Dawn came far too quickly. Mira stood in front of the mirror, wearing the dress Hannah had brought her. A white gown like fresh snow, simple yet elegant, with long lace sleeves. It was fitting for a mating ceremony, even one arranged in haste. Her hands trembled as she tried to pin up her hair. "Let me help." Bess stepped in and gently moved Mira's hands away. Her experienced fingers began to work through the golden strands, courtesy of the moon's veil, braiding them into an intricate style. "You look beautiful, child." "I'm terrified," Mira admitted in a whisper. "That's normal. A mating is a big step." Bess paused, then asked softly, "But Mira, do you love him? Truly?" The question lingered in the air. Did she love Magnus? They had known each other for less than 2 weeks. But in those weeks, he had proven to be more than any man had ever been to her. Protective, gentle, seeing her as a person, not property. "I'm starting to love him," she said quietly. "And I think that, with time, it will become a full, complete love. Then that's enough." Bess finished her work and turned Mira toward the mirror. The woman who looked back at her seemed different, not just because of the veil, but because of the hope in her eyes, the sense of possibility. Pretty mama. Rose stood in the doorway, wearing a little pink dress Hannah had found. She ran forward and wrapped her arms around Mira's legs. Mira picked her up, holding her close. "Do you remember what we talked about yesterday? About Magnus?" Rose nodded, very serious. "He's gonna be my daddy." "That's right. He's going to take care of us, protect us, love us." Mira kissed her forehead. "Are you happy about that?" "Yes, I like Magnus. He's strong and kind." Rose smiled, pure innocence. "And he gives good hugs." Tears burned behind Mira's eyes. Because yes, Magnus had given hugs. In the last few days, when Rose fell or got scared, Magnus had been there, picking her up, soothing her, acting like a natural father. "Then let's go," Mira said softly. "Time to make it official." The ceremony took place in Magnus's private chamber, not in the great hall, but in a smaller, intimate room with a crackling fireplace and windows looking out over gardens still touched with morning dew. Only the essential witnesses were present. Hannah, the elder who would perform the ritual, 2 trusted warriors, and Bess, holding Rose, and Magnus. He stood near the fire, dressed in formal black that made him look even more imposing. But when Mira walked in, his expression softened instantly. He crossed the room to meet her, stopping just inches away. "You're stunning," he murmured. "Ready?" Terrified, but ready. A small smile touched his mouth. "So am I. Terrified, I mean. But I know this is right." The elder, the same one who had overseen the moon's veil, gestured for them to step closer. "The true mating bond is permanent," he began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "It binds souls, wolves, and destinies. Once formed, only death can sever it. Do you understand?" "We understand," they answered together. "Then speak your vows." "Alpha Magnus first." Magnus took Mira's hands, holding them firmly. His amber eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that stole her breath. "Mira of the Ash Mountains," he said, using the identity the veil had given her. "I vow to protect you. With every breath, every battle, every moment, I vow to honor your strength, to value your courage, to respect your choices. I vow to be your partner, not your owner, your companion, not your controller." His voice grew softer, more vulnerable. "And I vow to love Rose as my own, to raise her, protect her, and give her everything I have, because you two, you are my family now, and family is everything." Tears slipped down Mira's cheeks. "Your turn," the elder said gently. Mira drew in a deep breath. "Magnus, Alpha King of the Southern Lands," she began, I vow to trust you, even when fear tells me to run. I vow to stand at your side, in joy and in battle. I vow to be honest, loyal, and true. Her voice cracked with emotion. And I vow to let you love Rose, to let you be her father. Because I see how you look at her, with a love that cannot be faked. And she deserves that. She deserves you. She squeezed his hands. You saved me when I was shattered, gave me hope when I had none. And for that, for all of it, I choose you, today, always. Silence settled over the room, thick with emotion. Then we seal the bond, the elder said. He took a small ceremonial knife. Blood from both joined, mark exchanged, and a bond that neither magic nor time can break. The ritual was quick, but intense. A small cut in each of their palms. Their blood mingled in a silver cup. Then the elder pressed his hands to their necks, where the mating marks would appear. Heat flared through Mira, not like the moon's veil. Stronger, fiercer, like fire pouring through her veins, etching itself into her soul. She gasped, her knees nearly giving out. Magnus held her steady, and through the sudden connection, real, not temporary, she felt everything that was him. Fierce love, absolute protectiveness, determination like steel, and beneath it all, fear. Fear of failing, of losing, of not being enough, the same fear she carried. It is done, the elder announced. True mates, Alpha and Luna, King and Queen. Magnus touched Mira's neck where the mark now burned, a silvery symbol shaped like a wolf howling at the moon. Then he leaned in and kissed her, not gentle like before, but consuming, claiming, promising. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathless. My mate, Magnus whispered. My Luna. My Alpha, Mira replied. My husband. The word felt strange, but right. A small sound broke the moment. Rose wriggled out of Bess's arms and ran toward them. My turn, she demanded, arms outstretched. Magnus laughed, a rare, genuine sound, and scooped her up. He held Rose in one arm and drew Mira close with the other. Our family, he said, looking between them. Complete. And through the bond, Mira felt the truth of those words. But the celebration didn't last long. That afternoon, while Mira rested, Hannah came with news. Damien arrived. A day early. Her face was pale. And he brought more than trackers. He brought a small army, 30 warriors, all armed. Magnus tensed immediately. Where are they? Camped outside the gates, demanding entry, claiming that under the old law of pup retrieval, they have the right to investigate. It's a bluff. The law requires proof of paternity first. But the worry was clear in his eyes and through the bond. How long can I hold them outside? Hours. Maybe until tomorrow. But Magnus, Hannah hesitated. He brought a blood tracker, a witch who specializes in locating bloodlines. If she performs a ritual close enough, she would find the connection between Rose and Damien. Then we don't let her get close, Magnus said immediately. He turned to Mira. Rose stays here, locked in, magical wards on the doors. No one comes in except us. And me? Mira asked. He'll recognize me eventually? Not if you stay hidden. But the hesitation was there, as if he knew it was only a temporary solution. I can't hide forever, and running only delays it. Determination hardened her voice. Magnus, what if we face him? Together? No. Too dangerous. But I'm your Luna now, your queen. I won't stay in the shadows while a threat hangs over us. She took his hand, gripping it tightly. And maybe it's time Damien learns that I survived, that Rose is mine, and that now we have protection he will never break. Through the bond, she felt his conflict, the desperate need to shield her versus the knowledge that she was right. If we do this, Magnus said slowly, we do it my way, by my rules. Understand? Yes. He looked at Hannah. Arrange a meeting, tomorrow at noon, Neutral Hall. Damien and only 5 of his men. Me, Mira, you, and 2 warriors. Equal terms. And Rose? Hannah asked. She stays hidden, guarded, until we know his true intentions. Magnus drew in a long breath. But Mira is right. It's time to face this. To end it once and for all. After Hannah left, Magnus pulled Mira into his arms. I know you're strong. I know you've survived terrible things. His voice was rough against her hair. But seeing him again, facing those memories, it's going to be hard. I can feel your fear through the bond. And you can feel my determination too, Mira replied. I'm not the broken Omega he threw away anymore. I'm Luna, your mate, Rose's mother, and I will fight for this. Then we fight together. He kissed the top of her head. Against Damien, against anyone, together. And through the bond, Mira felt the promise. No matter what came, they had each other. It was enough. It had to be. Chapter 8. The neutral hall was a cold stone chamber in the center of the castle, a space that belonged to no side, used for tense negotiations. Mira stood beside Magnus, wearing a dark green dress Hannah had chosen. Formal, commanding. Her mating mark was visible on her neck, a declaration no one could ignore. Hannah stood to Magnus's right. 2 warriors flanked them, and on the other side of the long table, Damien. He looked the same. Blonde hair, cold blue eyes, arrogant posture. But there was something else now. A cruelty in the lines around his mouth. A simmering anger. And when he looked at Mira, recognition flashed across his face. Even with the moon's veil, even with her altered appearance, he knew. Mira. Her name came out like an accusation. So it was you. I knew I recognized something at that banquet. Magnus tensed beside her, but Mira kept her voice steady. Damien. 3 years, he hissed. 3 years searching. And you were here the whole time. Hiding like a rat. He leaned across the table. Where is my pup? She's not yours, Mira said coldly. You lost every right the moment you sent men to take care of the inconvenient problem. Shock flashed across the faces of Damien's warriors. Clearly, they hadn't known that part. You ran, Damien shot back. You stole my heir. I saved my daughter from a father who saw her as a source of shame. Fury burned through her veins. And now she has a real father, someone who loves her, protects her, not as a political tool, but as a child. Damien's eyes narrowed. They flicked to the mark on Mira's neck, then to Magnus. You mated her, claimed her. Yes, yesterday at dawn. Magnus spoke for the first time, his voice like stone. Mira is my true mate, Luna of the Southern Lands, and under the old law, any attack on her is an attack on me. And the child? Damien demanded. Where is she? Safe, far from you. Magnus leaned forward, power rolling off him in waves. And before you quote the pup retrieval law, know this. Rose is under my protection as her official adoptive father. Registered, sealed, irreversible. It was a lie. They hadn't made it official yet. But Damien didn't know that. Adoptive father, Damien spat. How convenient. Mate the mother, claim the bastard. Careful. Magnus's voice dropped to a deadly tone. How you speak about my mate, and about my daughter. Tension exploded through the room. Warriors on both sides shifted, hands resting on weapons. Hannah moved subtly, placing herself slightly between Mira and any potential threat. I came here, Damien said through clenched teeth, to reclaim what is mine. The child carries my bloodline. My blood. By law, you abandoned her. You tried to silence her mother. You forfeited all rights. Magnus rose to his full height, forcing Damien to look up at him. And now, as king of these lands, I decree this. You have no claim here. Rose is my daughter. Mira is my mate. And you will leave. Today. Not without a lineage test. Not without proof that the child exists, that she's well. I will not subject my daughter to your tests. The refusal was absolute. Damien smiled. A cold, calculated expression. Then you force my hand. Under the old law of pup dispute, I challenge your claim. I demand a trial of honor. Shocked silence fell. Terror iced through Mira's veins. Because a trial of honor meant combat, Magnus said, his voice neutral. You and me. Until one yields. The winner decides the child's fate. Exactly. Satisfaction spread across Damien's face. Unless you're afraid, I accept. There was no hesitation. No! Mira grabbed Magnus's arm. You can't. I can and I will. He looked at her, his eyes softening, but his resolve unshakable. It's the only legal way to end this. If I win, Damien can never challenge us again. Rose stays with us. Forever. And if you lose? Her voice broke. I won't lose. He said it like a fact. But through the bond, Mira felt the flicker of doubt, the small tremor of fear. Because Damien was a trained warrior too. And in fights like these, anything could happen. Tomorrow at dawn, Damien announced. In the honor field outside the walls, witnesses from both sides, and let the gods decide who deserves the child. After Damien and his men left, Mira collapsed into a chair. He'll kill you, she whispered. Damien doesn't fight with honor. He'll cheat. Let him try. Magnus knelt before her. Mira, look at me. Reluctantly she did. I've trained my whole life. I've fought hundreds of battles. I am Alpha King for a reason, because no one defeats me easily. His confidence was solid. And fighting for you, for Rose. I'll fight with everything I am. But if something goes wrong, then Hannah has orders. She'll take you and Rose. Run for the neutral lands. The papers are already prepared. Money set aside. You'll be safe. Without you, that's not safety. It's empty survival. Tears streamed down her face. Magnus, I can't lose you. We just found each other. Then trust that you won't. He wiped her tears with his thumbs. Trust me. Trust our bond. The connection between us. Through that bond, Mira felt his certainty, his strength, his fierce love, and she forced herself to nod. I'll trust you. Good. He drew her into an embrace. Now let's go see our daughter, spend time together, as a family, before dawn. Rose was in her room, drawing with crayons Hannah had brought her. When she saw them, her face lit up. Mama! Daddy! She cried, using the title naturally now. Magnus scooped her up and spun her until she giggled. Hey, little one. Making art? Yes. Look, I drew us. She showed them the paper with 3 figures. One big, one medium, one small, all holding hands. Our family. Something inside Mira broke and healed all at once. They spent the afternoon together, playing, reading stories. Magnus teaching Rose about wolves, about running free, about inner strength. And when Rose finally fell asleep, exhausted, Magnus and Mira lay down together. They didn't make love, not with a battle looming, not with fear hanging over them, but they held each other. Promise me something, Mira whispered in the dark. Promise you'll come back to me. To us. I promise to fight with everything I have. I promise to win. I promise to come back. Magnus pressed a kiss to her forehead. Because now I have a reason to live. A reason to fight. You two. Through the bond, she felt the truth of it. But she also felt the fear. Because sometimes, even truth wasn't enough against a cruel fate. Chapter 9. Dawn came cold and gray. Mira dressed in silence, her hands shaking as she fastened her simple gown. Magnus stood beside her, strapping on light armor, protection that wouldn't weigh him down, allowing quick movement. Neither of them spoke much. What was there to say? Hannah came to get them. The field is ready. Witnesses are gathered. Damien is already there. And Rose? Mira asked immediately. Bess is with her. They're locked in the suite, guards at every entrance. Hannah rested a gentle hand on Mira's shoulder. She's safe. No matter what happens out there. A small comfort. The honor field was a wide circle of packed earth outside the castle walls. Hundreds of wolves from both packs had gathered. The southern lands on one side, the delegation from the eastern lands on the other. In the center, Damien waited. Polished armor, a long sword in his hand, a confident smile on his face. Magnus walked out to meet him, with Mira at his side until the edge of the circle. Stay here, Magnus said quietly. No matter what happens, don't step into the ring. It breaks the rules. I know. But every fiber in her body wanted to pull him back, keep him safe. He turned fully to her and took her face between his hands. I love you. Remember that. I love you. I love Rose, and I will come back. Then he kissed her, deep, promising, and stepped into the circle. The elder overseeing the trial raised his voice. Trial of honor. Combat until formal surrender. The winner decides the claim over the disputed child. You will begin at my signal. A pause that felt like an eternity. Then, begin. The sound of metal striking metal rang across the field. Mira couldn't truly follow the movements. She couldn't process what she saw. She could only feel, through the bond that tied them, every emotion in Magnus. Iron determination, absolute focus. His love for her and for Rose pounding like a heartbeat, and fear. Small, buried deep, but present. The fear of failing, of losing them. He's holding back at first, Hannah murmured beside her. Testing. Magnus is a strategist. He doesn't waste energy early. The crowd reacted in waves, shouts when something shifted, tense silences when danger hovered. But Mira kept her eyes on Magnus. Only him. Through the bond, she felt the moment Damien's attacks became more vicious. She felt Magnus's calculated response. Every tactical choice. Every precise movement. He's doing well, Hannah said, though her voice was tight. Very well. Minutes dragged by like hours. 5, 10, 15. Mira felt exhaustion begin to bite at Magnus. But she also felt something else, a growing certainty. He was winning. That's cheating, Hannah suddenly shouted. The rules say human form. The rules say no full shift. Damien's voice cut across the field. This is allowed. Through the bond, Mira felt Magnus change, power rising inside him, his wolf pushing closer to the surface, just enough to match Damien. And then, a tidal wave of emotion crashed through her. Sharp pain, deep fatigue, but under all of it, an unbreakable resolve. For them, for Rose, for our family. Magnus's thoughts echoed through the bond like a vow. The crowd roared. Something had shifted in the fight. Mira forced herself to look. Magnus was on his feet, his posture dominant. Victorious. Damien lay on the ground, defeated. Yield! Magnus's voice rang out. A command, not a request. Silence fell, thick and absolute. For a long moment, Damien didn't move. Then, hoarse and choking on pride, he said, I yield. Alpha King Magnus is the victor, the elder declared. The claim over the child belongs to him. The dispute is ended. Sound erupted. Cheers from the southern lands. Stunned silence from the eastern delegation. Magnus crossed the circle, heading straight for Mira. She ran to meet him, throwing herself into his arms. Through the bond, she felt his exhaustion, the ache in his overworked muscles. Yet above all that, a tidal surge of relief. You won, she sobbed. You really won. I told you I'd come back. His voice was rough with fatigue. I always come back to you. Mira cupped his face, checking for injuries. There were marks, scratches, bruises already beginning to form. But nothing serious. Nothing that wouldn't heal. You're okay, she whispered, more to herself than to him. You're okay. I am. He held her tighter. And Rose is ours, officially. No one can question it now. But the celebration was cut short. Damien, hauled to his feet by his warriors, shouted, This isn't over. You might have won the fight, but the child still carries my blood. I still have rights. You don't. A new voice sliced through the crowd. Everyone turned. An elderly woman stood at the edge of the field, wrapped in the robes of the Elder Council, an authority higher than kings. Elder Mora. Magnus bowed his head respectfully. I didn't know you were here. I arrived yesterday, she said, walking slowly to the center, leaning on her cane. Her sharp eyes swept across both sides. I heard rumors of a dispute, and I witnessed everything. She stopped in front of Damien. You, Damien of the Eastern Lands. Do you admit that you abandoned a pregnant Omega? That you attempted to silence her? He hesitated, But knowing that lying to an elder would bring even worse consequences, he answered, "Yes." Then, under the ancient law of paternal renunciation, you forfeited all rights to the child the moment you chose violence over responsibility. Her voice rang with unshakable authority. Magnus's claim is not adoption, it is justice. He took an abandoned child and gave her a home, as it should be. She turned to Magnus and Mira. "And you two, a true mating?" "Yes, elder," they said together. "Then show me the child. I must see with my own eyes that she is well cared for." Panic shot through Mira, but Magnus squeezed her hand, sending calm through the bond. "Come, our daughter is waiting." They returned to the castle, Elder Mora, Magnus, Mira, with Hannah following close behind. At the suite, Bess opened the door. Rose sat on the floor, playing, blissfully unaware of the storm that had raged outside. Mora stepped in and slowly knelt, her movements stiff with age. "Hello, little one. What's your name?" "Rose," she answered brightly. "But Mama sometimes calls me Lily." "Rose is a beautiful name." Mora studied her carefully, taking in every detail. Then she looked at Magnus. "She's healthy, happy, loved. I see that clearly." The elder rose with effort and turned to them. "My decision is final. Rose remains with Magnus and Mira. Damien has no claim, and if he tries to interfere again, he will face the full judgment of the council. Is that understood?" "Yes, elder," Magnus said. "And thank you. Do not thank me. Just love this child. Protect her. Give her the life she deserves. With our lives," Mira vowed. After Mora left, after Damien and his delegation departed in defeat, after everything finally, truly ended, Mira collapsed. Tears of relief, exhaustion, pure, overwhelming joy. Magnus held her while she cried. Rose joined them, wrapping her small arms around both of them. "It's over," Magnus murmured. "Really over. Damien can't touch you again. You're mine. Officially, legally, permanently." "Our family," Mira whispered. "Our family," he agreed. And through the bond, they felt it. Peace. Finally, peace. Chapter 10. 18 months later. Mira stood in the gardens, watching Rose, now 4 years old, run between the flowers with other pack children. Laughing, free, unafraid. "She's grown," Magnus said behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and pulling her back against his chest. Too fast," Mira replied, leaning into him, feeling warmth. Safety. Home. So much had changed in 18 months. Damien had tried once to challenge the elders' decision. But when the full council threatened to strip the eastern lands of their official status, he backed down. Permanently. The moon's veil on Mira had faded after 6 months. Her appearance had returned to normal. Brown hair, gray eyes. But it no longer mattered. Everyone knew who she was. Luna, Queen, Magnus's mate. And they were happy. "There's something I need to tell you," Magnus said, turning her gently to face him. "What?" A flicker of worry touched her. "Is something wrong?" "The opposite." He smiled. That rare, true smile he reserved only for her and Rose. "The healers confirmed it today. You're pregnant." Shock stole her words. What? Pregnant. About 8 weeks, they estimate." His eyes shone with joy. "We're having a baby. Our baby." Tears burst from her eyes. She had suspected. But hearing it aloud, "We're having a baby," she repeated amazed. "Rose is going to be a big sister. And I'll be a father. Biologically this time." He quickly added, "Not that it changes anything. Rose is mine just as much as this one will be." "I know." Because he had proven it. Every single day. For 18 months, Magnus had been the perfect father. Patient, loving, present. "How do you think Rose will react?" he asked. As if on cue, Rose ran over to them. "Mama, Daddy, look what I found." She held up a small flower. "It's beautiful, sweetheart." Mira knelt down to her level. "Rose, we have news. You're going to have a little brother or sister." Confusion flickered across Rose's face, then understanding, then pure excitement. "A baby? For real?" Her eyes went wide. "For real," Magnus confirmed, kneeling down too. In a few months. I'm gonna be the best sister, Rose declared. She hugged Mira and then very gently placed a hand on her still flat belly. Hi, baby. I'm Rose. I'll protect you. Something inside Mira broke and healed all over again. Because this was everything she had ever wanted. Family, love, belonging. That night, after Rose was asleep, Magnus and Mira stood on the balcony of their chambers, looking up at the stars, hand in hand. Sometimes it still feels like a dream, Mira admitted. All of this. You, Rose, a baby on the way. After everything I went through, it feels impossible that it's real. It's real, Magnus said, kissing her fingers. And it will stay real, because we built this, together. Through fear, through fights, through everything. We chose each other. We chose each other, she echoed softly. Through the bond, now strong and unbreakable, they felt each other's love, gratitude, the promise of a shared future. You know what I think? Magnus drew her into his arms. That you were never just a maid, never a broken omega Damien threw away. No? No. You were always a queen waiting for her crown. A warrior waiting for a battle worth fighting. A mother waiting for a family worthy of her protection. He touched her face, his thumb tracing her cheek. And me? I was just lucky enough to be the man who saw it. We were both lucky, Mira corrected. Because you saved me. But I saved you too. From loneliness, from an empty life. True. He smiled. So I guess we saved each other. And we'll keep doing it. Every day. They stayed there until the moon had climbed high, bathing the gardens in silver light, illuminating the kingdom they now called home. Inside, Rose slept, dreaming the dreams of a child who is safe and loved. In a few months, a new baby would be born. Another piece of their family. But for now, in this moment, Magnus and Mira simply existed. Together. Complete. Finally, at peace. And if anyone asked Mira, the woman who had fled 3 years earlier, pregnant and terrified, whether she'd ever imagined this ending, she would say no. She had never dared to dream this high. But fate, she'd learned, sometimes gives you what you need. Not when you expect it. Not in the way you expect it. But when you're finally ready to receive it. And she was ready now. For all of it. The end. And now, dear listener, we've reached the end of this journey. Which moment touched your heart the most? Was it Mira's initial humiliation, forced to choose between impossible fates? Magnus's unexpected gesture when he discovered Lily, Rose, and offered protection when no one else would? The rushed mating ceremony, born from pressure but watered by a true love growing between them? The final confrontation with Damien, where Magnus fought not out of duty, but for family? Or the moment when you realized that happy endings exist even after deep trauma? And the supernatural element, those ancient laws that allow true bonds to protect the vulnerable, transforming a rejected child into the legitimate daughter of a king, did that speak to you somehow? Do you want to hear more stories that blend magical laws, ancient justice, and love that chooses to stay? Leave your comment, your reflection, your favorite scene. Your voice matters. And maybe, just maybe, the next story will be born from exactly what you share. Until next time, in the realms where love is strong enough to pierce even the deepest darkness,